And you're parched.
I am, and there's alcohol in front of me, so I definitely need water.
What you got?
So we have a butterscotch old-fashioned.
Ooh.
I don't know what all he put other than butterscotch schnapps. Yep. And I forget which whiskey. What whiskey did we put in there, Zach?
The Yellowstone.
Yellowstone. And what simple syrup did you use?
Regular simple syrup because I couldn't find the brown sugar, and butterscotch schnapps and chocolate bitters.
Chocolate bitters, yep.
Ooh, I should have poured myself some alcohol now that I think about it.
Well, it's the Sip It Ribbit podcast. You should have.
I know, it just like it didn't dawn on me until right now as you were saying
you can
it.
go if you want
go
to.
put some Jameson
I
in it.
know,
real
it's
quick.
okay. I get, because then I have to like climb. I'm so short, right? I don't really drink a lot, so anymore. I'll put all the alcohol up, so that means I got to grab the stool because I'm only 5 feet tall, and then like go get. I think I have. Yeah, I like whiskey. I'm in a tequila phase for the last couple of years, so I don't even know which tequila. I got some weird one from like Iceland or something.
Have you tried Terramana?
Yeah, it's all right.
Just all right?
You know, like it's all right.
Did you try the clear or did you try the brown?
Yeah. I tried the clear. It's good. I guess I didn't feel like it was more spectacular. It was good. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a hater of The Rock or anything. There are some Polynesian people out there who are like, do not like him because he is like, for them, he is like the, I don't know, the whitewashed version of what a Polynesian is. And I kind of resent that a little bit because he was raised in the mainland, which we would say, right? Like he's not raised in Samoa or Hawaii. And I was raised halfway. So I was just like him. Like I was born in Hawaii and then we moved to California. And then I moved back to Hawaii. But when I moved back to Hawaii, everybody there looked at me as an American, as they would say. You're not from Hawaii, you know. Like, even though I danced hula my whole life, my father and my mother are both very involved in the culture and dancing. And like culturally, I'm very much from Hawaii. But I don't sound like it. You know, I sound like I'm from California. And so it's the same kind of vibes with him. Like people are like, oh, he doesn't know how to dance. So like when he does these like previews at Moana 2, right? He's dancing. He's doing like Samoan dancing. And everyone's like, oh, he can barely dance. I'm like, well, he's not a fucking dancer. He's a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, his parents didn't, obviously his mom didn't really teach him how to dance. And you have to grow up doing that. And I don't know, just a bunch of haters out there on some of it. But I feel like I think he does a lot of good for I think in a whole for the Polynesian culture. But getting back to his tequila, it was all right.
Right.
I like Casamigos.
I like darker tequilas.
Yeah.
And I do.
Do you?
Tequila old fashions all the time. Everything's an old fashioned around here. Everything is.
I've never had a tequila old fashioned.
That's really good. You do need something dark though, because it's the most like a whiskey. So, so reposado or añejo, and then you can use mezcal too, which tastes like a campfire. It's not my favorite thing ever, but you know.
I kind of like that. I like old fashions, you know, and I like something a little smoky every once in a while. I don't like venture off too far. Like I'm kind of plain when it comes to that kind of stuff.
It's literally like swallowing the charcoal.
Maybe that might be a little too much. I don't know.
It's extremely aggressive.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very mild. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Like I don't like Woodford Reserve, like the smokiness of that, you know. So that's like kind of where I draw the line. If it starts venturing off into that realm, I'm like, I don't know, I'll stick to my lighter.
Mezcal it literally tastes like a campfire. I mean,
I think I've only had. Actually, we went to Purveyor. Have you guys been to Purveyor?
I don't think I have in high school.
No, I'm sorry, not Purveyor. It is called the Catacombs. It is a speakeasy in Huntsville. And before, when they opened, you had to like give a passcode and you had to like call from downstairs, and the passcode changed every hour. It was like real elite to get in. But now it's like you can make appointments and shit and you can be there for 2 hours. But they'll make you a drink based off of like a list, right? So you pick a spirit and then you pick 2 different flavors. So I had a friend who picked smoky and spicy. And they did a thing with mezcal, and they actually had like this bubble gun that popped like smoke and shit. It was kind of cool. But yeah, I was like, oh, this kind of, you made you kind of try something different, kind of based off of what you liked. But But yeah, hers was kind of smoky and spicy, and I liked it. And I don't think I would have ever chosen something like that. But it had a little bit of mezcal in there.
Well, I just don't know how I feel about it. But I pretty much just drink my whiskey sugar water.
Yeah, whiskey sugar water.
That's all an old fashioned is for the most part. No.
That sounds like you guys got to go there. So it like pushes you a little bit to do something different.
Yeah, I would
That might
probably
be
enjoy
fun.
something like
Yeah.
that. Me and Nathan argue about this frequently, but I'm a lover of Birmingham and a hater of Huntsville. So
I'm the opposite. I wouldn't say I hate Birmingham. I just don't enjoy it like most people.
Interesting.
I
I don't have a preference either. I mean, I guess I'm from Huntsville. Well, I live here, so
Right.
it's like
yeah,
I think people who don't like Huntsville have like worked and lived here,
Yes.
and they had bad experiences, and
Yes.
then that's always what it. I feel like that's what it is.
yeah. Did a
Like
semester
even
of
like
school
Quayla,
there.
she's like, I'm over Huntsville. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, she's from
way over it.
Gadsden, Yeah.
way over it, but part of it. I won't give you. I'll spare you the details as to why. So that's some pretty strong opinions about it, though. I'll say
Yep.
not when I'm being recorded,
Yeah. That sounds good. Off air.
but yeah, definitely an all-fair conversation.
Right.
So no show before the show. We're just getting
I'd
into this
say
thing.
that was it.
That was
the show before the show.
Welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast. Not show. I didn't say show this time.
You said podcast.
I said podcast. You can follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skiddios, at Sip It and Rip It, and at Future is Female, right?
Yep.
Does it-
Futures female powerlifting.
Okay, Future is Female
It's a
Powerlifting.
stupid long name.
I didn't know if it was podcast or powerlifting. It's hard to remember handles, but
It's
Future is
just too
Female
long. They
Powerlifting.
wouldn't even let me put the in there, so I couldn't put the futures female, even though it's a very long name. I get it. If you just put female powerlifting, it'll pop up.
There you
Yeah.
go. You can watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts.
I have
like
a
us-
question.
Huh?
You always say Apple Podcast first, but Spotify is much more popular.
Okay, I don't know. I didn't know. I said it first. I'm just listing them off, man.
I was
Favoritism.
just curious. Yeah, he's an Apple guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
am
like
I.
things that work.
I don't ever listen to podcasts on Apple though. I always listen on Spotify.
I listen to podcasts on Spotify, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, I don't know. I
It-
just
it
said it
works
that way.
good.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can listen
It's
to us
just all
anywhere you
there.
find a podcast.
This is true. Pretty much.
Leave us likes, comments, rate us 5 stars,
4 stars
or
if you want.
4 stars. Leave us the comment that we've joked about for weeks now. Still want to know why I got 4 stars and,
Yeah, and not 5.
and not 5.
I'm telling you, it was that meme I sent you.
She runs a podcast too. She's got to know. Do you not feel like 1 stars they really hated it but didn't put much thought into it? 5 stars is probably like friends and like casual listeners that support you. But anything like 2 to 4 is like a well thought of rating. Like they actually had to think about it to give you 2 to 4.
I had one that actually wrote something down. So I think when people do like the 3s or whatever, they'll just put 3s and don't put shit down. So you don't really know. And I had one that didn't like how much I talked,
It's a podcast.
which I'm
about
like,
you.
it's a podcast. But I think what she was trying to say, because I try to take everything, as constructive as possible, is that I was talking too much. And I think sometimes people don't know in a long form podcast like this, it can be like pulling teeth to talk to certain people. And a lot of times my podcast, the people I interview, I barely know them. So there'd be some people who I knew, but a lot of it is like the pre-show, right? So I'm getting to know them, we talk a little bit more, but a lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to sound somewhere, anyways. So it like, I'll end up talking to kind of fill in where there's going to be dead.
Yep.
But so I took that as like, all right, thanks. That does help. Maybe I'm doing too much of that because then it was deflecting away from what maybe I could have done better trying to make them talk or even post edit it more, So if it is dead, it is what it is. But maybe I post edit that a little bit better. But yeah, I felt like they thought about it. This is why I gave you a 3. You talk too much.
So what did you do in the gym this week, Heidi?
Oh gosh. So right now I do our gym program. So we have a gym. We teach small group, and I am not currently powerlifting. So my program is not our powerlifting program. And I try to actually stick to what we do. I used to have a coach, right? So she would write my program for me. But we have a strength program. So I do the strength program. So pretty much it's, we're in a hypertrophy phase right now. So it's, squat. I'm doing a pendulum. So because my knee, I had surgery last year, almost a year ago, 11 months ago, I had surgery. I tore it last year in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and I had surgery a month later. So right now I'm still working on a lot of my flexion. So I'm not doing any back squats. I can definitely back squat, but it wouldn't be the most beneficial thing for me right now. Right now I really need to be able to load my quads, and my back squat in the way that I do it will not load my quads. It'll be so much back, and just, I know that there's other things that are better. So anyways, I did a lot of pendulum. We're doing cluster sets right now. So it's 8, rest 10, 3, rest 10, 3. So we're doing a couple sets of those, and then some accessories. So we're doing a couple of those. So it's 3 days strength training. I'm actually doing 4 days conditioning because we're introducing a new conditioning program, and I have not done any conditioning in so long, like since I did bodybuilding. And when I did bodybuilding, it was just to lose weight, and it wasn't any, I'm not trying to improve my VO2 max, or I'm not trying to do any of that bullshit. Like, it was fully aesthetic reasons. And so this is the first time I've really done conditioning. So it's fucking tough. Let me tell you, in the first week, I thought I was just going to die. I'm not young. I'm going to be 44. So like trying to do conditioning on top of 3 days of strength training for me was a lot. And then I go to jiu-jitsu 4 days a week. So that's another one, but I've improved. My conditioning has definitely improved in my jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, it sounds like a lot. I used to be a lot more
sounds
minimal.
like a ton.
It does.
It does. It does sound like a lot.
Full week.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. Like, I now feel like my energy is there. I struggled with my energy a couple years ago. So, like, I am old enough that I'm actually going through menopause. So I had to get on hormone therapy, which is kind of weird to even think about. So I guess I am kind of on gear. But it's not in those ways, it's not, it's very minimal levels. So even now with what I do, it's a cream, because I told her I don't want to be zero, because I was at 0. And then my estrogen was really high. So I had a opposite effect. So I guess that happens a lot with menopause. So it starts to fluctuate, but I didn't want to be like where my voice starts changing, right? So that's above 200 normally. So I'm at like 70, give or take, and then it comes up and down.
That feels like it's a pretty good mid-range to be in.
Yeah, I think so. And it's actually going down, and my estrogen's been going back up, which is why my doctor was like, I think you're going through menopause. Like, this is part of it. But when I could never have done that 3 years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, I was so tired all the freaking time. And I'm not a tired person. Like, I'm so active. Like, I like, just kind of that person. I like to do a lot of things. And it changed my life. I didn't want to go on anything, though, because I was still competing and drug tested. And then it just got to a point I'm like,
it's not worth it anymore.
Fuck it. I don't care. Yeah, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like, I will compete. I'll just compete untested. And it made a world of a difference. So I feel like now I feel less tired doing all these things. But yeah, it's kind of boring. I'm not doing any powerlifting at the moment, but I do want to compete here in the end of this year or the beginning of next year.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
I'll piggyback a little bit because I'm doing very similar stuff. I'm starting my cut tomorrow. Today's Sunday. I'm starting my cut tomorrow. So this whole week, because I competed at regionals this past Saturday, and I blame a lot of my performance on my my workload, my capacity, like just not being there. So I've been doing a lot of stuff that I did with Joe in the past. So my warm-ups are incredibly intense and basically make me sweat. It's basically a HIIT circuit for a good 15, 20 minutes on top of about 10 minutes of cardio. And it's been tough. The first day that I went back to it was that Monday, and it spanked me. I was tired. I was like, man, this is going to be... But I didn't do any barbell stuff, so everything was a little bit shortened. All my workouts were a little bit shortened because I'm letting my central nervous system recover from the meet. So,
yeah.
But that's really all I did. It was kind of like not deloady, but it was more just like focus on getting a pump from accessory work and doing things to get me prepared for the amount of work that I'm about to have to do. So it was surprisingly fun for not having any barbell work, but I think I'm so burnt out on powerlifting that the break was just very needed. So
Totally. I feel the same way whenever it's like I switch back. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I just want the barbell." I was like, "Bro, I've been doing the barbell for so long now." Like, I mean, the barbell's there.
It'll be there when I go back.
Yes, and I really enjoy challenging myself in different modalities. You know, like a pendulum squat is no fucking joke, and people look like, it's a machine. I'm like, yeah, let's see you get on that.
Get on it.
Put fucking 90 pounds on that. Yeah. Like, but yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
How much are you trying to cut? Are you going to nationals? Are you trying to cut for nationals?
I don't know yet. I'm doing 12 weeks. I'm cutting down to 230-ish.
Okay. What do you now?
245, I think.
Okay.
I was 112 and a half when I weighed yesterday or Friday. I don't remember which. So I'm not as heavy as I was when I actually put in because I'm using the RP Diet app. So I actually was like 113 and a half when I put it in. So I actually am going to weigh in tomorrow morning before I start anything and then go from there. So, and it's going to be, quote unquote 12 weeks. It's just going to be until I meet my goal. Once I meet my goal, I'm going straight into maintenance. And then after maintenance, I'll go into a bulk phase, and then we'll see. Desi wants to go because, she won the entry, so she wants to go. We're kind of like trying to figure out costs-wise what we can do that makes sense. We put, we had a tax season, good timing, so we got a little money back. So we're like, we can put this towards going. Yeah. At least for the flight, she won't have to pay an entry fee, so it'll just be the flight and the hotel and food. Mm-hmm. The big issue is me being a 242. Based off of last year, I think she would be competing on Friday and I would be competing on Sunday again. So that just extends the trip by a couple days. Obviously, it's going to depend on how many people sign up because they had a bunch of changes as they had people sign up to even things out. So I'm kind of hesitant to sign up. So I also don't know where I'm going to be strength-wise when I get finished with all this. So I'm kind of like, I would really enjoy just taking the whole year off. And I also think that I owe it to Desi to let her have this nationals for her because I had nationals last year just for me. Yeah. So just being able to be in the back with her and kind of like help her because I program for her. I pretty much coach her all the way through. I give her most of the feedback and stuff. So yeah, she didn't like it at first. She had a hard time.
Well, I'm sure.
She had a hard time taking cues from me for a long time, but she's gotten a lot better at it.
Listen, the husband-wife combo can be hard. Very good, but normally it's not. Yeah. It's like me and my husband, we have a good relationship, with that. Like I respect, and he's never like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Like there's never that dynamic. I think there are times where he'll positively push me where I'm pulling back, like a real coach, but a lot of our members, they're like, I can't work out with my husband. I was like, well, my father-in-law does that with my mother-in-law. He'll be like, can you watch her form? I don't know if she's doing. I'm like, Pop, don't say nothing. You gotta drive backward. Don't say it. That is a Latin woman. She will scorn you the whole way home. Don't say nothing, man. Just let her be.
That's fair.
But you know what? I mean, the last year, not nationals, but their regionals over there. I think they're not having it at the same hotel, but it was a really nice event. I think they did. George does a great job out there. They have a good team, so it feels super special too. It does have the full pizzazz with like smoke machine, lights, like all kind of stuff. So I always preface that because like Chris Webster hates that kind of stuff. Like he does not want to do any meat with that kind of stuff. But George's meats are like that. But they are going to have like really great things for each of the lifters, the best lifters. I think I flew into JFK when I went there, and then I took train and then got a ride. But it was kind of nice. We went from JFK and then I went to Manhattan. I ate. And that, because I kind of made a trip. Yeah. I was by myself, but I made a trip of it, which would be a nice thing, I guess, for you two to do.
Yeah, Times Square, excuse me. Times Square is somewhere we would like to go see. Aside from that, I mean, going to some of the like famous restaurants and stuff would be interesting.
Totally.
Food is a good motivator when it comes to travel.
It's my biggest motivator for travel most of the time.
Yeah.
We went on some tangents, Zach. What did you do in the gym?
I'm actually in a similar situation as y'all are, because, you know, I have the IT band issue in my good hip now. I think it's bursitis, but we don't know because insurance denied my MRI.
Great.
So
What?
me and Ron are just going to spend the next 6 weeks guessing at it.
God.
But just part of it. But on my third week, just finished my third week of no barbell, and I'm tired of it. I'm ready to get back, ready to get back to a barbell. So got one more week, and then we make our return to the squat bar. So
What are you doing squat? Are you doing any kind of squat work?
Mostly body weight, leg press, or hack squat. Yep. So
And that's not affecting your hip?
no, seems to be lunges are the worst thing right now, but I got cortisone put in both of them, and that's right now I feel great. But I was supposed to get that MRI to find out whether or not I needed to have my hip scoped, so we probably need to figure out the next steps on that. But I'm supposed to have hip surgery this year, but it was elective. It wasn't 100% necessary. It was basically just to make me comfortable, so if it gets put off, it's not a big deal, I don't guess. But it's a bummer because I was the strongest I've ever been.
Yeah.
Again, tore a lat in December and then turned around and fucked up an IT band again this month. So I've not had the greatest 2025 so far.
We could have a podcast entirely talking about all of your injuries.
All of my injuries, yeah. I've only posted one total, and I did that on one leg at Maverick.
Yep.
so
with a close.
How'd you tear your lat? Deadlifting?
Yep, deadlifting. Yep. It was just a grade 1, not a big deal. It's fine now. I'd say strength is 95% return. Most of my strength loss now is just from it being
weak,
untrained. Yep. So
Yeah.
but we're getting back to it. I miss it. Ready to get back. I have one big goal in mind, and that's probably it for me in powerlifting. So not in coaching because it's my career, but
Yeah.
so I have one big goal in mind, and I would like to see that through, and then maybe be done. So not with lifting, not with
right.
We've talked about this before, but I want that one big goal, and that's it. So we have speculated that maybe my legs just aren't as strong as the rest of me, and that too much pressure gets put in my hips because my hips were fine until I made the transition back to low bar, and then all of a sudden, months and months of squatting SSB and high bar with no pain, no issues. Everything was like meteoric, like in terms of my strength gain and both those things. I make the move back to low bar and
sounds like you're part of
hurt my hip with 75% of my 1 rep max. So
sounds like you're part of the high bar gang again.
I might be permanently part of the high bar gang. Probably going to go back to elevated heel too, which is swapping shoes drives me fucking crazy. Like I like flats so much better, but I guess to accommodate my hips, we may be moving back to the heeled shoes. So
I just like no shoes. Like if I could just do no shoes, like what
Who
is
it?
it?
RPS?
RPS.
I think it's
there you
RPS. You can go no shoes.
The green one. RPS is the green one, right? Yeah.
The green one with the really high squats.
That's for sure.
To be fair,
I didn't say it.
SPF but green.
Yeah.
And less cigarettes.
And less cigarette smokes between attempts.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, gosh.
That's
I used
probably
to
the
smoke,
equipped
so I
part
think
of
like I would totally dig that if I was younger, like just be able to smoke and then take an attempt. And
Snubbing one out of the ashtray as their name's being called for their third attempt.
as they waddle over there in their suit and wraps and
yeah.
You got 1 minute to make the lift, but you get 3 minutes for your coach to put you under the bar. That has been a whole podcast before.
Yep.
We probably should
Sure
leave
has.
equipped lifting alone.
we should for a little
everybody's
while.
sake. But no, I miss it. I haven't done anything cool. Bunch of conditioning, a couple of CrossFit Metcons a week. And then mostly full body
Yeah.
on the split. So, which I kind of hate because I feel like just as I'm getting a pump in something,
You
it's time to
transition
move on to a
something
different body
else.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is what it is, I guess. But
You want to do one PR song?
Yeah,
a
one
piece?
PR song
Just
a
to
piece.
save some
Heidi,
time.
what's your favorite PR song? If you have something big on the bar, what are you gonna?
Yeah,
put on
hit
the
him
list
up,
to?
Tupac.
Hit him up
There
by
we
Tupac.
go.
She was instant about
She
that.
she was prepared.
No thought put into that whatsoever. She
It's
was
like
this
it's
is it.
like right before I hit the platform, I'm toggling over to hit him up, and it's every swear word, right? Like it's funny because everybody's third attempt deadlift. We got songs for them, and some of them, it's like every swear word. And I was like, listen, I get it. Like, I love hit him up in my ear. He's like, fuck Biggie, fuck Smalls, fuck, and I'm just like, yes. But I can't have that playing it with everybody else to hear. But yeah, that's my PR song.
I'm on the East Coast side of that argument, by the way.
Oh, of course you are. Of course you are.
Mine
I
will
like
be
Biggie too.
Mine will be pretty simple. It's Primitive Urge by Left to Suffer, and
That's cool.
That band is pretty cool, and it's funny because I was scrolling through some memories, and apparently I posted a reel with that, and I was like, "This song's badass. What? I need to go back and listen to this."
Instagram's pretty helpful with reminding you of cool music sometimes.
It is, but that's all I'll put in there. Just listen to it because it's heavy and it's cool.
I feel like this is a band you like. And I don't.
Primitive Urge by Left to Suffer.
Urge. Okay.
Yeah, we're.
Okay. I'm gonna.
It's death metal, so if you don't like death metal,
Yeah, I don't really like death metal.
yeah, so you probably wouldn't dig it. So
The only person
Yeah.
that puts rap on this playlist typically is me, and
No,
it's
I've
few and
put-
far between.
did I not put Eminem on here?
Yeah, you probably did.
I think it was Venom though, but that song kicks ass. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm going to go the metal route too today. Probably a band that you like better than I do, but Bow Down by Born of Osiris.
I can dig them sometimes.
It came on when I was programming today, and I was like,
You know what?
this makes me want to run through a wall. Like, I want to go deadlift right now. Like, right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how I feel. I want to go do this right now. So I figured it was a pretty good one. So
Yeah.
I actually had one prepared. I didn't have to scroll
That's
through and
cool.
find one. Yeah, it was pretty cool to do too.
So professional.
I always have like multiples that I go throughout the week, and I put them in my phone. And I'm just like, this would be a good PR song.
So Heidi, my first profession was music. So like when I say I have more bands than most people have songs on their on their Apple Music, it's like literally like 25,000 artists. Like
Jeez.
so like
It's crazy.
it's sometimes I have to scroll. That's that just is what it is.
So really quick, so since we're still on top of the music, I was putting together the PC yesterday, and I was trying to find a box to put my old parts in, and I opened that closet behind me, and I was like, what is this box? And I open it up, and it's just CDs. And the first CD that I saw was Between the Buried and Me, The Great Misdirect, and it reminded me of that conversation we had.
We just had a conversation about that record.
But yeah.
It's awesome.
CDs, man.
Did you blow off all the dust? Like,
They don't have dust on them because they're in a box. So
Oh, there you go.
The box has dust on it.
Last time I had a CD, I sold all of my CDs to some kid at a yard sale that me and Sandy were having. And I had literally
For
like
$1?
2,000 or something. I sold them all for like $50. And I
Yeah.
was like, the kid was like already had the CDs in his mom's car, like putting them in the CD player while she was paying us. Like he was so amped, and that made me so happy. I was
He's about to.
I've never been happier getting rid of music before
Yeah.
in my life. Like, cause that kid made it worth it for sure.
That's awesome.
Cause I can be a hoarder about
That is
things
awesome.
like that. But
that is awesome.
meat and potatoes of this podcast.
Yeah. So if you just want to, it's kind of funny. They complained about you talking a lot on your podcast, but that's basically what this is going to be.
Yeah.
So if you just want to run through like the start of your fitness journey, kind of like what made you get
Yeah.
into fitness and what got you into. Did you do bodybuilding first?
I actually did powerlifting first and then
Okay.
kind of switched back and forth.
Okay, so you can just kind of go through that whole process. What made you swap to bodybuilding? What made you come back to powerlifting? And then this is going to be a lot, so you can just go at it for as long as you want. And then go into kind of what got you into the clerical side of powerlifting, because I think that's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, so, my degree is in kinesiology. I graduated from University of Hawaii, but I didn't choose that route. I was actually doing makeup at MAC Cosmetics for many years, like totally. I thought I was going to be a physical therapist, and then I just didn't want to do it anymore. At the time I was working for MAC, and I was making very good money, and this is like early 2000s, and kind of move forward. I had like a real pivotal point in my life. I was pregnant with my first kid. My father got diagnosed with cancer, and then my husband left me. So it was like 3 huge things that happened at the same time. And all of that kind of like shifted a lot of how I looked at health and fitness. Like prior to that, I used to party a ton, like drink, parties, like I was, early 20s, I was doing all that. So did my ex-husband. So it was like, that was our scene. I used to DJ and I was in like that kind of scene. But going out of that, so like out of the divorce, my father kind of going in through remission, me having my child, I really wanted to be healthy again. And I was determined to feel better about my body and how I looked, because I wasn't happy about the way I looked, but I had kind of let go of any kind of gym, anything, so this is like 2009. I decide, all right, I'm going to diet. I think I tried the Atkins diet. It was like the first thing I did. And then I lost a ton of weight and, back to pre-baby weight, but I didn't like how I looked. So I was like, okay, I look just like skinny. Like, like I just look like a skinnier version of how I looked before, like no real muscle. I didn't look fit. So then I started, really kind of moving into, I guess, more of a bodybuilder way of looking at things. That's when I met my husband, my now husband, and he introduced me to powerlifting because his friend actually was a powerlifter. So we were in Hawaii at this time. He was in Iraq. And I remember him sending me a video or a picture of him and his buddy, Ronnie. And they were squatting. My husband had, it's just no joke, he had ace bandage wraps on at his knees, squatting in like the desert. You know what I mean? Like he has no clue. He's never barbell back squatted. Like he's trained his whole life, but he never was in powerlifting. He'd do some barbell work. And that was kind of like the first introduction of like, what is this? Oh, this is like powerlifting. And then I kind of like tried to do both. So at the time, Susan Salazar, who is still a powerlifter. I don't know if you guys know of her, but Susan, she's out in Arizona now. She was in Hawaii at the time, and she was the first woman I ever saw who bodybuilded and was powerlifting. And we went to Ronnie's powerlifting meet. This is probably like 2010. And she was there. And her, Leo, and all the guys from Mana Barbell, which is a powerlifting gym in Hawaii, they were hosting it. So it was a USPA meet. It was like my first introduction to a meet. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I was like fangirling on her. And then, this is where I was like, all right, so we moved to Missouri. It was my first duty station because I was civilian. When my husband and I got married, we moved to Fort Leonard Wood. That's where I did my first powerlifting. It was like unsanctioned. Like now we laugh about it. It was totally fun, but it was like some like 20-year-old kid who started his own federation, bought like trophies. I still keep it. We weighed in on like a regular scale at Anytime Fitness. There was no calibrated plates. He was the only judge. We were like, it was like people lifting over here and then us over here. It was hilarious. Just push pull. And we all did it. We didn't have no singlets. It was totally like unsanctioned. But then I fell in love with powerlifting at that point. And this was like 2011, maybe. No, 2012, because we had just moved there. And then, I kept trying to do powerlifting and bodybuilding at the same time. So I ended up sticking with bodybuilding competitive wise, but always did like the main lifts. I always just loved to lift heavy. So I did bikini. Then I moved into figure. At the time I was training with Dexter Jackson's team, who's a bodybuilder. Him and his wife had a show in St. Louis, and I did their show, and his wife was like, hey, you should join our team, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up sticking with like a real bro bodybuilder routine. And it was like that till I think maybe about 3 or 4 years. And I wanted to get my pro card, but I was natural. It's a lot harder to be in the NPC as a natural athlete unless you really are an outlier. And I'm not. I'm being real. Like my body, my physique was nice, but it wasn't so special. Or even with all the training and the dieting and all the stuff I did, I realized it would take me a lot longer to develop the muscle I needed naturally and then be able to keep that muscle while I lean out. And, all I could see was like clock ticking. I was like, fuck, I'm getting older. At this point I'm in my 30s. And my husband, we wanted to have a kid. So after our last show was in New York, I had qualified for nationals. But I was over it. I was like at 1,000 calories doing cardio twice a day and still lifting. And my body would not change. Like it was so soft. It would not drop. It was totally rejecting. I wasn't getting a cycle, like all the things that are indicators that, it's not going well. And I was over it. So I was like, I'm done. We'll have we'll try for a baby. And then I started to work out with some friends, and they were doing CrossFit football. CrossFit football at the time was a ton of powerlifting. So it was all main lifts. We did some cleans and things like that. And there was some conditioning to it. But John Wellborn was the program designer for CrossFit football at the time. And so I loved it because it was getting back into, all the barbell stuff. And then shortly after I got pregnant. So I was like pregnant within like a month actually after. So at that time, I have my daughter. And then I get back, I do a meet 6 months after I gave birth. And that was my first meet back in 2015. And then that was kind of it. Like after that point, I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to go back to bodybuilding. I was training people for shows, and it's just my heart wasn't in it anymore. I just kind of was like, I just don't enjoy it. And I wasn't training anybody for powerlifting at the time. I was just doing it on my own. I was training myself. I was not coaching anybody else. I was doing mostly Gen Pop people, some competitors, because at this time, I'm a personal trainer at this time for a couple of years now. And then we moved to Texas, and that's where I see Susan Salazar, who was like the girl I was fangirling over in Hawaii. She's at the same gym. And it was so funny. I always tell this story and she laughs about it, but I saw her in the bathroom. It's like weird, right? Because I was like, oh my God. Are you Susan? She's like, yeah. And she's like drying her hands. Like, I know you don't know who I am, but I've known you for like ever. And I saw a write-up about you and total fangirled on her. Susan is like, I think she's shorter than me. So, and I'm 5'1". I think she's 5 feet tall. And Susan is still one of the top ranked lifters in the world. She actually just competed. Where did she compete? Abs? I think she just competed in abs.
I've seen a lot of pros go to the ABS.
I have
crazy.
too. And I think that can be another part of a topic too. So there's
gotcha.
There's some goods and bads on, and I guess maybe I can give my 2 cents on that. But yeah, so I ended up training with her, and that was my first like powerlifting coach. And so we had a team of women that all trained together, and these bitches are strong. Like I thought I was strong. I was like, no, these women are strong, and they're all natty too, So it was like, it was really interesting to kind of see that. One was a teacher, one's a mom of 8. It was like crazy. Like we're all just so different. But after that, I decided to really kind of pursue powerlifting in a training aspect of training people. So then when we moved here to Alabama, we wanted to open our own gym. And we chose here because my in-laws live here and we have 3 kids. So they were able to help us when we opened it. I did not think I would get anybody who'd want to come to my gym for powerlifting. Because, powerlifting up until that point in my mind was not a Gen Pop thing. And this is like 2016, 2015, right? It's like people were following programs, and it's, you can't make a business out of powerlifting. I guess that's how I looked at it, and I kept on competing, and people were seeing me competing. They were like, oh, do you have a gym? Do you train powerlifters? I go, well, I had trained a few people, more online. And I was like, well, is that something you're interested in? Well, yeah. So then we slowly started getting people coming to my gym who wanted to powerlift. And then, I think the first day I ever put a board with like PRs on the back of us, I was like, there's like 4 names. That's it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's my first like PR board. I was so excited. And now it's kind of a staple at our gym. It doesn't matter if you're a powerlifter or not. Like, Betty, who's 71, is putting her total on there, and she's doing, a goblet squat. But you know what I mean? So it's like that transformed. But yeah, we opened our gym Core Strength and Performance in 2017. And this year we're actually expanding. So we're going into business with a friend who has jiu-jitsu. He is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, judo, Japanese jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's just so many things, but we've been wanting to get into business with him. So our new place is 7,000 square feet. 4,000 of it is mats and jiu-jitsu, and the rest is our gym. So we're expanding here at the end of the month. And yeah, I think 20% of our people are powerlifters, and they're recreational powerlifters. I mean, I'm in Huntsville. It's one of the tech cities in the nation. So you're going to have a lot of people who are regular people, like engineers. And,
Yep.
you know, they enjoy challenging themselves, but they're not looking to be like all-time world records, you know? And I like being that person. Me and my husband like being that medium to having some sort of goal as an adult that's physically challenging, because once you become an adult, like, we don't physically challenge ourselves in anything. There is no high school sports that we have to compete in, or so I think like powerlifting is the best way for people with a very low barrier of entry to be able to challenge themselves in a way. Yeah, and then I think I have a history of doing events. So prior to my being a meet director, my mom and I, we do a very, very big event. It's a Tahitian dance competition in California. So we'd done it for 20 years. And we'd also done like smaller event stuff where there were workshops, but it was all Polynesian dancing, mostly Tahitian, hula. So event planning for those kind of things. So I had a lot of experience with event planning. And Charlie had asked me if that was something I wanted to do, because at the time, Charlie was the only meet director in Alabama. And we would work with like Mississippi and other cities. And then we did have some people that were coming from Florida that were meet directing. But when he asked me, I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that. Like, that's kind of like the two worlds I love. You know, I love powerlifting and I love doing events. It's way different in one aspect. But it is very fulfilling for me, because I feel like a lot of what, maybe this is like, I hate to say my calling, but I never say things like that, but I feel like I do a good job at creating events that create memories. And yeah, I might not be the best, but I feel like I'm got the skills to organize, to put things together, to network, to communicate with people, to, do these kind of things that create events that they're priceless to me. Like, I could care less. In the long run, I'm never going to remember what made how much money or lost how much money. It's like, people remember these meets until they die, like, oh, this was my first regional event. And like, those kind of things are so fulfilling for me. But yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. And there's a little bit of a process to getting into meet directing. Like, you kind of have to have certain skills and certain things like that. But yeah, that's how I kind of got into that route. And I always like doing things like that. Like, I probably volunteer too much. I volunteer in my kids' schools. I volunteer to do record keeping. I was like, I bite off more than I can chew, I think, sometimes. But I do really enjoy giving back. I love seeing newcomers come and go. And, sometimes it's just a small fragment of a time that they're going to powerlift, and that's okay. I think a lot of people who've been powerlifting a long time maybe become very bitter and snotty about those things. Like, well, fuck you. Well, let me see where you're at in 5 years. The only time I say something like that is when somebody's super cocky, and where I'm like now I for some reason I always get on Instagram videos of chicks or guys who are like calling things out, like, oh, can't fully lock out, maybe you shouldn't do this. And then it's like this big old long rant of them, giving their 2 cents and they're, a strength coach. And I'm like, you've competed in 2 meets, 2 meets and you're 22,
Right.
Like, how much life experience do you really have in powerlifting? Maybe they have more. And maybe that's that old bitter person that can be like that line in me. But at least as a meet director, I do enjoy when people, whether they stick with it or not, have tried it. And, I enjoy that aspect of it. But yeah, I guess that's the long of all of it.
Cool.
Story.
So you mentioned that your gym is kind of like merging with the BJJ. What would it be called? Dojo? Or would it be called?
Well, we're going to call it an academy.
Academy.
Yeah, it's called Five Minds Martial Arts, because we will have karate, judo, and jiu-jitsu. And
Muay
the
Thai by
Five
chance?
Minds. What's that?
Muay Thai by chance?
No Muay Thai.
That's like
Now
my
the
favorite of the martial
Is
arts.
it?
Yes.
There's
I
a
love
great
Muay Thai.
spot here that has Muay Thai, but yeah, the Mavericks, they have really good jiu-jitsu and really good Muay Thai, and
That's
as well as Claymore. They do Krav, so they do a little bit more of Krav.
I think I could get into that too. That's pretty cool.
Now the karate is not your typical karate, and I know zero about karate. But Dave, who is my friend, who's going to be our head coach, who we're going to business with, the type of karate he does is a traditional and modern blend, almost how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a blend of Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And it's very aggressive.
Okay.
It's very combative. So he doesn't even show kids. It's really for adults.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So where we could probably, Tiger Rock is probably great for kids, and they do, they're a little bit more maybe subdued. And the karate he does, which is a type of, it's called bunkai, but there's actually another name to it, but it's more aggressive, and it was meant to, as he says, it was originally designed so that people could punch through like armor.
Okay.
So you could pierce through armor with your hands and things like that. And when Dave kicks, it's like totally scary because he's like some normal dude, and then all of a sudden his kick is like where it makes my 270-pound husband jump back when he kicks him. So I'm like, damn, that's nuts. Like, but yeah, that's cool. The kind of it is. And my husband actually is really into it. He's never done karate. He's always done jiu-jitsu. And he's like, I think I like it more than jiu-jitsu. oh, that's
Fair.
cool.
So I mentioned that mostly to kind of divert into this. I've seen a lot of like power lifters kind of like, whether they retire or pull back, they really like to move into jiu-jitsu. So, and you've done the same thing. So I'm curious kind of like what is it about it that kind of draws people to it?
I do find it very odd that there's so many powerlifters that do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because I feel like there's such opposite spectrums. Like most powerlifters are packed and dense. If you're doing it right, your spine is pretty rigid, and from over the years. At least for me, I've always liked martial arts. And when my kids and my husband were doing jiu-jitsu years ago, so they actually all outrank me. I never wanted to do it because I was like, I still compete in powerlifting. I can't do two things, and everybody always gets hurt. I'm like, I can't be hurt. My job, I just can't, I got a demo all day. I can't be doing that. And then they had a women's only class, and my husband was like, you should just try it and see how you like it. And the thought of having sweaty men like sweating on me just grossed me the fuck out. Like if I feel a piece of sweat in my mouth, like, bro, that's gonna be it. Yeah, done. But mind you, now I don't give a shit. Like it happens all the time now, But at the moment, it definitely was like a turn off for me, So anyways, I tried the class, and I was like, this is actually I could probably use some of this, like, as a female, at least, like I don't want to freeze up. Maybe I might not be able to do what I want to do, but I know that I will try to fight, and I'll try to do something, it's better than not doing anything. So, but once I started in the class, I was like, bro, I think part of it is like, when you're strong, especially in gi, where you wear a gi, there's no gi where you don't wear anything, right? It's like a t-shirt and shorts. In gi, man, I can, because my grip is so good, I can pull down and really control people. And I felt like I could use my strength a lot more, which is good and bad, right? There is a place for strength. But I felt like, I don't know, there was something really cathartic about it. I feel like when I used to powerlift, this is how it felt like for me, where I could just be taken away by training. And now training for me is not the same way anymore. I think part of it too is like I'm always distracted, got my phone, or those kind of things I should probably remove. But when you're on the mat, you just don't have time to think about any of that. Like you're gonna get choked out, right? Or you got to watch your arm, or you're so in the moment that it doesn't allow you to do anything else. And I don't know, maybe that's what it is. I feel like a lot of people who I see are very strong. I mean, there's some really strong guys that I've seen doing jiu-jitsu, and they're very successful with it. I've always gravitated towards like athletic stuff. So once I kind of got into it, I was like, I could do this. This is fun. I like it. And now I'm hooked. Like, so I just got my blue belt, which is nice. But I mean, I've gotten way more injuries, speaking of injuries, in jiu-jitsu than I have in powerlifting.
Yeah.
Like powerlifting was like pains, you know, like I could work around them, but I broke my arm first 3 months in of jiu-jitsu, and then broke my finger. And then I've had, I don't know how many black eyes and bruises and stuff, but then I tore my knee in the tournament. But I finished it. I finished the tournament.
There you go.
Yeah, it took a second. It was nice, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny when I see a lot of people who turn to jiu-jitsu. It for some reason there's a ton of people in powerlifting who do that.
I've noticed a few. What's his name? Derek. He was one of the first ones that I saw. Like that was like a big time powerlifter move into it. Dr. Mike has also gotten into jiu-jitsu.
He's been in it for a while. I think he has a black belt already.
Does he have
Israel?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does have a black
I'm pretty
belt.
sure he's.
So
yeah, I seen him meathead out with a couple guys. I'm like, I would hate to roll with his ass.
he's so dense. Like
Yes.
I can't imagine trying to move him.
No.
He's so low to the ground.
You have to
and
be
just,
technically so much better because he's so strong.
Yeah. So I guess that may be part of it. I some of me thinks that maybe because you do require so much mobility for it, and that's something that powerlifters typically lack in is mobility. It's kind of like one of those challenging things. It's kind of like, and that may be part of why people go into it, because like it reminds them, like you said, of powerlifting in the early days where it was really challenging, and that's what really got you hooked. I mean, I know that's what got me hooked, was it was just challenging and rewarding. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe we should get into some martial arts.
Heidi, you mentioned that, most of your training career, you've done mostly gym pop stuff. And I think anybody, it's definitely true of me too. I like to tell everybody I'm a powerlifting coach, but 70% of my business is, general
Gym
population still. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I tell everybody, I train everybody on the barbell regardless of what their goals are. I can't lie, but, barring something medical that prevents that. But one philosophy I swear by, and I really believe in, is people will make excuses for their health to come out of the gym and not be there on a regular basis. They may start because of health and wellness and whatnot, but they will always find something to put above it. But for whatever reason, when somebody has a competitive reason to be in the gym, they're more likely to stay, more likely to dedicate themselves to it. So I see more and more of my gym pop people, and I tell them this, and it's not necessarily that I have to make everybody a powerlifter. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think that happens naturally because they see their teammates doing it and they want to go do that too. But I try to influence people to run 5Ks or do obstacle course racing or powerlifting or CrossFit or
Something.
whatever the hell it may be, but something to keep some type of competitive fire under them to give them a reason to stay in the gym. Do you find that that's probably true of your clients and gym pop or not
outside
too?
of I would say outside of I think when they get to like 60, the people 60 and above just kind of, at least the ones that come to me, just kind of know they have to do it.
Yeah.
So they might come in a great attitude. Like there will be some that are like, oh, I just love coming. It makes me feel good. And, and then we have some that are like, I know I need to be here because I got to be able to pick up my grandkids still, so then it doesn't matter. They don't need like an outside stimulus sort of, or goal, I guess you could say. But yeah, I do feel that a lot of adults are searching for something to challenge themselves. And powerlifting to me is one of the best ways because the likelihood of getting hurt is lower than jiu-jitsu or martial arts, right? You're not getting hit in the face. You're not getting choked out. You're not breaking a finger, getting stuck in a gi, really, when you think about it, you can mitigate how much intensity you do if that causes you pain. And, but it does allow them to be challenged, step on a platform where people see them, think about their health and nutrition leading up. I feel like a lot of adults really want that, and powerlifting is a great way to get them in there. And I do. We tell people all the time, like, 5Ks. You like 5Ks? Wonderful. Let's we have a couple runners at our place, but having something to strive for like that, I think is very important. And at our gym, we're going to incorporate it twice a year. But at the end of the year, we do a lift off, and everybody it's like a powerlifting meet, but it's only against themselves, right? So they do squat, bench, and deadlift, and we see. So their programming leads them into that. So we do like a 16 12-week. So we do a 12-week in strength program leading into the Christmas time. We do a lift off in the gym. Everybody, you know, it's everybody gets a medal. You know, it's like it's really just for them to see how well they do against themselves, so that they have something to strive for. But we're going to do something in the summer too, and it's going to be a little bit less absolute strength-ish. It's going to be pull-ups, push-ups, things like that, to give them something to work towards, because they sometimes need that extra little thing, and we rile them up.
It's very, very important. I see specifically with men, it's a meme now, but you know, I used to bench 315 in high school. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like
it's inflated to 405.
It's been inflated to 405. Well, whatever it may be, but I mean, you see that. But you know, you have a 30-something-year-old male come to you and be, you know, has this history of athleticism, wasn't good enough to go play in college, or maybe played at the JUCO level, what have you, and then after that, it's just been like steadily downhill for them since. You know, and they get to the point, you know, they got a couple of kids. They're married, maybe been married a couple of times, work 40 plus hours a week, all these things that all of us deal with, right? And like, well, I used to do this and I used to do that. And I just feel like that competitive thing, like it's hard to light a fire under somebody like that sometimes, but then you just see them, like a light go off and they get pissed off that one of my other guys is better than them. And they're just like, oh, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, good. Like now we have found a little bit of fire, and now we can use that to something. And like I said, I don't want to push everybody to powerlifting. Selfishly, you know, I would love that, but But it is just funny. Like I see like husband and wife, like, you know, couples come in all the time. Like I find that in general, women are more likely to spend money on themselves than men are, and like in terms of like health, wellness, beauty, stuff like that. I mean, in general, men just don't care as much about it. I feel like too, like women in general are more coachable most of the time. But
I agree.
But to see, but you know, they'll drag their husband with them, and he just like neanders through workouts for 2 or 3 months, and then he gets paired with somebody in a small group or somebody that's just like immensely stronger than him. It's just like. Now it's time to turn up. I don't like this anymore. You know what I mean?
I can't even count how many people who were the wives first who started with us, and then the husbands, you know, after months of them training and then seeing them get stronger, and then like, oh, well, you can bench this now? Like you couldn't even do the barbell, you know? And then they are like, they needed that for their wife to be like a little stronger than them in certain things, or they try like with us, they try a class with their wife. I'm like, your wife is benching better technique than you. She might be a little lighter, and you know, you should be benching a lot more than her. You know, she weighs 114. But I feel like they need that. Like sometimes you need to be able to maybe hold a mirror to what their potential could be, right? And they or they just feel like fuck, what happened to myself? Like,
and that's what it is. I mean, maybe it's the realization that they are getting left behind, and maybe they wasn't aware of that until they saw somebody else, you know, physically more capable or whatever it may be. But I don't feel like I have that problem with women. I feel like they're self-motivated. They do things in the gym. They're coachable. They do what I ask. They do everything else. And then like,
I would say that they probably care more about that. Just in general.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, that's what you said earlier, but
yeah, I mean, but it's just funny to watch that light go off for people, and they're just like, I have to be better.
Although I will say, I have seen that, like, in the same vein, like, most of the time women will come in for themselves. But I have definitely seen that competitive spark flare up in women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when they're like, if they're similar in weight classes, or you know they're working in the same areas and they kind of see each other. There's that.
Oh, it happens 100%. It still happens like that. But not so like. There's not just so that instantly, black and white moment like there is with like men sometimes. You know what I mean? Like
I feel like women are more supportive of each other most of the time, unless there's some sort of like conflict that happens or something causes that. Most of the time, because I mean, I see it in Desi. She's cheering everybody on, like in the back. Totally. She's always cheering everybody on, and usually there's a lot of good camaraderie as far as like the women in powerlifting that I've seen. There are always exceptions, but at least from what I've seen,
at the higher level is where it starts to get nasty. So it's funny because I love state meets, and I love it. I was just talking to somebody. I think I was talking to Andrea about this, Andrea Armstrong.
We need to get her on too,
for sure.
Yeah,
would be a
yeah. I
great
told her
guest.
I'm going to interview her for the podcast when I start back up
I'll have to
because I
listen to
took
that.
like a year hiatus. But it was always the goal. I think for everybody once you start powerlifting, I want to go to nationals. I want to go to worlds. You want to climb this. And then I went to worlds and I realized I was like, none of my friends are here. It's just my husband. Nobody's clapping for you really. Sometimes when you go to the higher level ones, it's like, it feels cold almost and unintimate because nobody knows each other. And then when I would have our meets, I was like, fuck, I gotta lift at our meets because it's like all of us. You know what I mean? Like we're all there. I felt like regionals, like all of us were still there. It's like so much of our state was competing at regionals and everybody was cheering each other on. But it's like when I go to the American Pro, when I'm going to these bigger meets like that, you go in the back and it is fucking silent. I mean, you'll hear them amongst each other. It doesn't matter if it's the women or not. They are locked in. They are not laughing, and they are like fuck everybody. Like it's a totally different vibe. But yeah,
It's about
money's on the
winning.
line.
I mean,
yeah, they're taking it more serious. And not that they aren't here. But I think more people might not want to be as distracted, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not one of those people. Like I'm very much a kind of like a talker when I lift. I'm very happy. It's I'm locked in like right before. So like 2 minutes before.
Yeah.
It's like hit them up. Like fucking, that's when I'm not social. But prior to that, I'm always social. But yeah, when you're at the bigger ones, it's definitely a different vibe. But now afterwards, everybody's pretty cool with each other. Like it's really kind of nice. But yeah, during is not the same.
I think I remember Zach Dion when he had him. I don't know if you know Zach. He's from Florida. He's doing the Ghost Clash this year, and he's done it in the past.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
He's 165.
I think 165 or 181.
He's a junior,
Oh,
I
that's not who I'm
think.
thinking of. Okay, yeah, I don't know who that is.
Okay, yeah. He's very young. The reason why I actually know him is because we were under Joe at the same time, so we kind of like spoke back and forth. He mentioned when he was helping Joe at the Ghost Clash one year, he actually walked up to John Hack and he just kind of like poked him a little bit and talked to him, and he was very nice and very easy to talk to apparently, but he was a little short
nice.
because he was he was about to squat, I think. So, but I guess I'm curious about that part of it being really, really quiet and stuff, and having some kid who comes in there poking you and being like, "Hey, what are you listening to?" I can't remember what he said because he had his earbuds in and he was listening to it. He asked what he was. I don't remember what he said it was.
I don't either.
He
I don't
remembered.
think I would do that, man. It's like stopping somebody mid-set or something. You know what I mean? Like you just like, if you know they're competing, you let them do their thing,
Yeah, but I mean, he's early 20s, so he's very, very young.
Yeah.
So, but I find that interesting, and I think it's really cool. I think John Hack is probably one of the few people that would actually be super chill about it because he, at least from a distance, I don't know him personally, he seems like he's very much just kind of like, I'm here, I'm going to do my thing, and then I'm going to go home.
I've only talked to him a few times, and he's always been. He's actually on the more quiet side,
I'm not
maybe it's because I
surprised.
don't know him. But yeah, he seems a little. I don't think I would say he's introverted, but he's much
Reserved.
more. Yeah, much more reserved than I expected. And even his pregame leading up to squatting and deadlifting and all that, he's not very loud or boisterous. I think many of the pros, they're not, right?
Yeah.
They are much more of the opposite. I rarely see a lot of the big guys, and I've seen a lot. I'm lucky enough to be able to go to these things and be on the live stream, so I get to. I feel like, man, it's only because of podcasting. If I never did a podcast, I would have never been on the mic because they would have never asked me to be on the mic because they would have never heard me. And now I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm here. John Hack's pulling a record. Like, this is crazy, But yeah, they're actually all of them are really nice in person. Brianni, Joe's wife, I think they're fiancé. I don't know. I always say wife for everybody.
I'm not sure. I would say they're paired. They're going to be together forever,
for life,
probably.
Yeah, I feel like she's super nice. I had to take some attempts. Her father was actually at nationals, WRPF nationals, and she was super sweet. And I was like, I didn't realize it was her dad. But a lot of them, I rarely meet anybody who, you know, is an asshole. But I think if I was in that moment and a kid came up to me like that, I don't know what I'd do. I'd be like, okay.
I guess at some point, especially with John, because he's pretty much the greatest power lifter of our time, he probably understands that he's got semi-celebrity status, much like Joe and Brianni do. So they kind of have to look at it that way and be like, I know I'm going to get poked. Like, I know someone's going to come up and bother me. Which was, when I met Joe for the first time in person, was after I had already been with him for a meet. So when we went to nationals this past year, he was there, so I got to see him, shake his hand, and I said, hey, I don't want to bother you too much. I just wanted to say, hey, how's it going, and shake your hand and stuff. But he spent like 20 minutes talking to me before and after the meet, just because...
Yeah, he's real down to earth.
He is the coolest dude that I've... As far as like big-time powerlifting, like he's the coolest dude I've ever met. Like, it's very, very cool. We had him on the podcast one time.
Oh, did you?
It got deleted.
We had technical errors and his audio never came through. We tried to do it through Zoom, so that's where the errors lied.
I know the feeling.
Once we discovered Riverside, which was actually through Bryant, shout out to him, because
me too.
Bryant Wood's been doing awesome as far as like podcasting and stuff. But I was asking, what do you use? And he was like, Riverside. And I was like, I'm going to get that. And we've only had one issue out of Riverside, and it was someone's video. I think it was...
May have been Zach's.
It wasn't Zach's. I think it was Brooks.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you know Brooke Reynolds. Yeah, she was on, and her video didn't come through for some reason. I don't know why, but aside from that, Riverside has been great. So,
Heidi, while we're on the topic of national level meets and whatnot, a big rant that me and Nathan like to go on is, and maybe we're biased, but we think powerlifting is actually kind of an underrated spectator sport.
Yep.
I think it's like violently underrated. I think it's fun to be there. I think it's fun to watch them.
I think we're biased, though.
We are probably biased. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying it compares to like football or baseball or something like that. But for what it is, I think it's underrated power. It's definitely an underrated spectator sport, I think. Meets like the American Pro, the Ghost Clash, stuff like that have made strides toward making it more spectator friendly, I guess. Whether it's, the light production, the smoke show, all that stuff like that we talked about before. They've pretty much made it a point to make it more spectator friendly, I feel like. I mean, is that a point of emphasis at all here in Alabama to make it more spectator friendly and make it more, I mean, we don't struggle for a crowd.
You weren't at regionals.
No.
I was not at regionals.
You were not at regionals. So you didn't get that. And I didn't post any videos yet, so you probably haven't seen much. But from my experience, just being in the back, it was definitely something that is being strived for. I'm sure you can attest to that, because I could see it just from being in the building and like looking at everything. We had the ramp that we came down, and it was definitely working towards it. Yeah,
I think at least in Alabama, Brian and I have already talked about how we can elevate the live stream, and I think Charlie was our main meet director for like 11 years. And live stream really wasn't a thing until A1 Digital started making leaps and bounds with live stream. In my opinion, Anna Perez, who is the president of A1 Digital and PLU, her meet with Micah is the American Pro. And it was a dream of hers as a media... a media professional who loved powerlifting. She always envisioned powerlifting on a bigger scale, visually looking a certain way, which it really hadn't. Like even WPO when it's televised is really just mono front. There's some things here and there, but it wasn't necessarily so spectator engaging. And to me, when she started the first pro and we had a camera of them, like, fucking up with the,
Getting
and they're
ready.
chalking up, and you see them in the back, and it was multiple camera angles, watching them get ready, camera right in the back where the chalk is, and on their back in the barbell, and then it's like, up to their face, it's just all these angles, and you felt like you were there with the lifter. That to me really changed things, and to me in a very positive way, but also I think a struggle for me as a meet director is that we don't have that, right? So like my main focus as a meet director is to run an organized on-time meet, and that people enjoy. And the media part of it has never really kind of been a focus for us. It's been an added bonus. It was like, okay, we can stream it online, but it's going to be one camera because these cameras are expensive. And then who's going to take care of it? Bryant, thankfully, is somebody who's, helps us with that. But he and I were talking about it after regionals, like, what else can we do to make this a little more elevated? So I was talking to Anna about it. But I do feel, I feel like I think there's a push amongst a lot of people who are maybe meet directing or, taking it a little further, wanting to grow the sport. And people say this all the time, right? We want to grow the sport. Okay, well, what does that look like besides cash payouts? Is that really what's going to grow the sport? I think having live streams like that are really important to appeal to the masses because we're biased. I think watching a lift, we know what goes into it and we know what to expect. But before I did jiu-jitsu, I watched jiu-jitsu. They just looked like they were rolling around, they just look like they're, I don't even know wrestling, I just look at, but now when I watch, I'm like, oh shit, that looks, because I know the sport and it's a lot harder to do that for the general masses. But that, I feel like that is the way we're going. And regional events, national events, pro level events, at least with Powerlifting United, are going to be held to a certain standard. So they have to be in a certain kind of place. So in order for us to hold it, there is a bidding process. Like, who's going to take it, right? Are you capable of running a multi-platform, meet or, all these things? Are you able to elevate it and make it look better by X, Y, and Z? It can't just be a gym. You can't be just doing it in a gym. Like, there needs to be more to it. But yeah, I hope that helps it because Anna, she is really trying to grow it exponentially. So she's done things with ESPN. A lot of the deals with powerlifting, it has been with her trying to do things with them, not with the WPO and things like that, but A1 Digital has really reached out to try to get it on ESPN in different ways. But yeah, I always wish it could be even more popular, but let's be real, bench sucks to watch. Even at a meet.
I'm the one who will argue that every day because I love watching bench press.
Oh,
but
man,
it's probably because it's my
visually,
favorite
though,
lift. Visually, it's not as interesting. I think the problem is the camera angle because honestly, when I video my bench press, if it's off to the side and up a little bit, you can see the lifter's face and you can see the struggle. That makes the lift. That makes the lift. That's what makes it interesting to watch. When you have that plane from the back, like you would a squat, it does have that kind of I don't even see what they're doing. The bar's just going up and down. The weight is cool. It's man, that's 400 or 500 pounds. That's dope. I love seeing that.
ESPN's broadcast of Julius Maddox's 800 attempt that Perseus participated in. Several. I think there's a couple of Alabama lifters that Perseus comes to mind first. But, they did really good with that because we had an overhead view of what they were doing. And that
that's what I'm saying.
Very much changed the perspective, and that made it so much more interesting at that point. Because you're not just looking at.
You need money for those cameras.
Yep.
So I got one.
Do, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the struggle too, right? I mean, that's something I understand well. But it's interesting to me because the quickest way to grow the sport seems to be visibility, right? The more people it's in front of, more people. But at the same time, just in the, I've been coaching it for about 10 years now. It's grown exponentially already, even without those things. I feel like you're only ever a couple of people removed from meeting a powerlifter now. Like, versus like
Yeah.
when you said it before, they were like, "Oh, you're one of those guys that get the suit," and like everybody,
Yeah.
like still the general public's like relation to that still like multiply for some reason. Like I don't know if it's just West Side's influence or whatever, but that's what people think of still. When they think of powerlifting. But I mean, as visibility's grown quite a bit, but as raw powerlifting has grown, I mean, it's more and more popular all the time, and I do feel like it's more visible and more acceptable. I think social media has helped, stuff like that. But
I think so too.
when I ask these questions, I guess I'm concerned about the gym owner because they're obviously banking on merchandise sales, drink sales, whatever type of concessions they're doing. I don't know if they get to keep the door at your meets or not, at PLU meets or not, but I would imagine they probably do. The door money's probably theirs, right?
Yeah. So it depends. Like we make different deals depending on what the gym provides and what we provide. But yeah, each meet director is slightly different. There are some that don't. They say, hey, I'll hold it there, but I'm keeping all the door. And you get, which is kind of rough to me. I'm going to tell you right now. I usually either give them the full door or I split the door depending on what the deal is. But there are some people who do that and they keep everything. And then it's just the gym's notoriety of having the meet there or the publicity that might go with it. But a lot of times gyms are closing down for that day. If their whole gym has to close down, that's a lot. You're asking a lot, of that location to do that. But if it's staying open and you're just a section over there, yeah, that's different, then it's not impacting their business as much.
I think about that's, I don't know, increasing the number of spectators at these things is the quickest way to put money back in the venue's pocket. And oftentimes, more often than not, it's in a gym. So, with the exception of event centers for, these bigger meets and whatnot, most of the time it's equipment gets pushed to the side and, we're all in the corner of a gym somewhere. So, I think and care deeply about what's happening to the people, that are hosting these things or the host gym, I should say.
I think back to, I think it was Battle of the Beast. I think I did that twice. It's always held in a school gymnasium, so they're closed.
A church.
Yeah, it was church. Yeah, church gymnasium.
It's Charlie's church.
Is it Charlie's church?
That's how he got the deal.
Gotcha. So there's like nobody in there anyway. So they're just like giving them, I'm sure they're giving them some amount of money just to host there. So it's kind of just like,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure
it's basically free money for them because they're not going to use it anyway. Yeah. As long as nothing gets damaged, everything gets cleaned up decently,
Sure.
Yeah.
They don't have to, they just get a little extra cash in their pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean,
but I mean, you're talking about like an actual like gym.
Yeah,
that people would go
absolutely.
to
Yeah, I mean, I feel like more, at least half the time, I would say that our meets are in
first
a local
SPF
gym,
meet
somewhere and,
that we went to.
Gym owners there hoping things go well, but also, like you said, they're closing down half their gym or if not all of it. They're missing out on day pass money.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have
drinks,
general
stuff.
pot people that probably don't want it there and want to be able to work out on a Saturday without having a crowd there watching them, that kind of thing. So I mean, it does slow things down for people. So I mean, I think it's just important to increase expectation to take care of.
Yeah, we actually put a deal out for regionals because having an event center, it's much more pricey.
Yeah.
So the entrance is $20 to get in, but if you had an active PLU membership, you could get 10. And Chrissy and I decided we wanted to do that in order to encourage maybe younger lifters who don't have a ton of money to just come and watch and support. And I think we didn't have very many that took that opportunity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, unfortunately. But the goal is that, we want, like she and I, we had talked about this, and I don't like two platforms. I see the value in it as a meet director. I see the value. You're maximizing your space and you might need to. But visually and energy wise, it feels so much better when it's just one person and they are there and everybody's fucking yelling for them, instead of two, and then it's kind of like divided, and then sometimes it just doesn't have the same feel for me. So with this one, we talked about it, and I was like, I would really just want to do two, just one. I'd rather do 2 days if we had to, but just one platform, just so we could have all the people there screaming and yelling, because sometimes that gets lost in a two platform thing. But it's logistically, it's much more complex to have two. And like at nationals, logistically, it's much harder too, because you have 2 jury settings too.
Yeah.
So you're talking about twice as much judges, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just a little bit more difficult to run through.
I mean, it's hard I know you know this part as well or better than I do, but it's hard as a coach to have 2 platforms going on and have to do the sprint
Between
one to
fortunately
the other. I haven't had to do that
Nationals-
too many times. Fortunately, everybody was on the same platform at nationals.
Which
That
it
was the
was-
fastest damn meet I've ever been to. I
Yeah,
swear.
it was about
like,
3 hours.
You're taking an attempt, and I'm turning around talking to Austin about his attempt, and it's like, so fast.
We
It
were
was-
on different sessions, so warm-ups you were just kind of like, I'm not here. Like,
Yeah,
'cause
help
you
each
had-
other with your warm ups, because I'm with somebody. I'm with one of you while the other
Yeah.
one's
Yep.
warming up, and vice versa. Like, I'm not going to be there. Tell me what happens, how you feel, whatever it may be.
I would say, as far as me as the lifter, when it came to nationals, I was so focused on myself that I didn't even think about the crowd looking at the guy next to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, I just need to go in and get my lift and be done. So from my perspective, like, it doesn't really matter that much as far as like, because I'm not, I at least as me, because I'm probably different than most people. I don't really do crowd energy or anything. I'm very like focused in on myself. I block out the crowd most of the time. I kind of go blank. So, but watching it back as a spectator, like I watched the live stream playback on YouTube, and I was like, this can be incredibly confusing because there could be 2 lifters at the same time. Like, because they had the dual screen on, and I was like, I can see this one guy over here, and he's mid squat, and then this other guy's about to get set up, and I'm like, I don't know who I'm supposed to watch. Like, there's kind of that struggle there. So,
and I was on the mic. You know how hard that is to go from
my
this one
God.
to that one to like, and then say who's up next, and then try to like, because as a MC, you're supposed to say the kilos, the pounds, the name. You're just supposed to say certain things, but at that point, we're like, we're gonna say as much as we can. It's like you can only do so much. But yeah, that makes a very good point. Yeah, probably as a lifter, you might not, at least for you might not notice a huge change in the moment since you're so invested in lifting.
But I mean, if you have a very crowd motivated lifter, like I know Austin is, he is a very crowd motivated lifter. He might notice that a little bit differently. I haven't talked to him about it. I've never even asked his perspective on that, to be honest with you. But I feel like it could be an effect on somebody who like really wants the crowd's energy, but it's divided amongst 2 people.
When you see these guys that do this, you know they need it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I find myself very, very concerned with the future of the sport all the time. So that's.
Do you?
I know those are hard questions, but
Why?
I mean, just because I want it to grow. Like I'm not. I didn't mean that in a negative connotation whatsoever. But like, I think I want it to grow. I think I want it to be available and thought of as an option more often for people in terms of physical fitness and also in terms of a competitive outlet and whatnot. I don't know. I'm just I'm just concerned, and it's also my career too. So I want more and more people interested in it all the time. I mean, maybe that's somewhat selfish, but like I just find myself thinking about the future a lot. You know what I mean? And especially things that make things either better for the spectator or more equitable for the lifter. And that's that's neither. I mean, I don't know. That might be a hot topic to some people, but that's the reason why I started hosting unsanctioned meets and whatnot too. Is it's an opportunity to pay lifters that might not break a record,
right?
And recognize their hard work in the same way. And I know we do a really good job. PLU does a really good job of building everybody up, like top to bottom, every lifter, every skill level, everything like that. So it's not a criticism whatsoever, but.
No, I understand what you're saying, though.
But yeah, I mean, just making it more equitable for the lifters. There's some people that are going to be forever intermediates, and some of it may be based on genetics. It may be based on time. It might be based on effort. It might just be all that they can do. We don't know. But these people across the board are putting in the same amount of work, largely, that pros do. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like
Yeah.
doing things, I don't know. I think all the time about making things more equitable to, those guys that land 500 or less on the dot scale and not, you know what I mean? 500 plus, you know what I mean? So I don't know. That's, like I said, that's stuff I think about all the time. So that's,
I do think like, for example, Christie's meet that's coming up, the Journey to the Curse Lands, they're giving the first 10 lifters, I believe, free entry for first time lifters.
it's awesome.
That's great.
Just because, we've talked about like, I love that she's very gung-ho about growing the sport. And I feel like, Charlie, even though Charlie's a little younger than me, he was at the end of that, so it's like now we feel like there's a new generation of people who can come up and see it grow differently. And yeah, so that's part of what she thought of, how can we get people to just try, to just come and compete, and it's less problems for her, or there's less planning. So this is a better one because it's at her gym, so it's like there's not a lot of, there's no moving of equipment. There's not all the factors that might, cost more money for her.
Yeah.
So that is definitely one of those things. But I do think about like how else can we make this easier for people? I have somebody who works, one of our employees, but she's a lifter, Susie. She's like, I think she's got always great ideas, but like, how about, at least for our gym, if they're interested in powerlifting, how about we have like a whole, questionnaire of like how-to answers, you know what I mean? Like how to get your rack heights, what to expect on your weigh-ins, so like a frequently asked question, maybe box and, all these kind of things that would prepare somebody for their first meet or get them excited for their first meet and things like that. Like, much more, I guess, thinking on the growth rather than like right now. Like, I think like, how can I make a meet better right now? I'm limited on the things that I can do meet wise, as far as, systems wise. There's really not much more I can do systems wise, but there is visually, whether that's getting a new camera and having people be able to see online a little bit better, and or having a better social media presence. I think that's really important. And I'm not huge on social media. I try to do what I can, but a lot of lifters are young and they are Gen Z. And how can we tap into that? That means doing TikTok or Snapchat and things that are not, necessarily my forte. But it becomes where I think people, the younger generation, if they can help out, like, for example, Emma Van Hooser, I think is how you pronounce her. Like Emma, she's, helped me out at a meet. I said, hey, here's my phone. I just want you to take videos on my stories, for our page. Just take whatever you feel. She's 23 or, you know what I mean? So she's like, yeah, she's got a totally different perspective and able to engage people differently. But I think like utilizing things like that or people like that, leaning on other people, I think will be one way that we can sort of grow the sport, and not dissing every young lifter that's out there that says a certain thing, like I get it, because there's some things that are very cringe to me. I'm like, oh gosh, but the reality is they are the next generation. So I think having a pulse on what they're saying, what they're interested in, who they're watching, those things are important. And even though they're not what I started out doing powerlifting for, the reality is it is for a lot of people now. And I feel like you have to kind of have a little bit of a tie into that, or else you'll just drift away. And then your meets are not going to be fun. They're not going to be attended. People are not going to, because that's who's going to be coming. But yeah, I love these kind of talks.
So I think we're over on your time a little bit, but what's next for PLU Alabama? What's on the calendar? What can we expect this year? That kind of thing.
Yeah, we got a lot. So the next one is going to be in April 12th. That is a Journey to the Curse Lands in Birmingham, and that's going to be at the Iron Empire. Iron Empire. I was like, something else. Iron Empire Barbell, which is Lentini's gym. Chris and Chrissy Hoffmeyer is going to be the meet director for that one. We also have the one in Mobile, which is Battle of the Bay, May. I think it's May 10th. Yeah. That's on the calendar. There's been a lot of meets in that area recently, so we may or may not, we'll see how that goes. It's the first time we're going to Mobile. So she's taking that. She's going out to Mobile. And it's really because of Bryant. He's like, you guys got to come down here. And it feels like so far away. For me, I'm in Huntsville. You're talking about 5.5 hours. But Chrissy's going to be doing that one. And then we have the Alabama State Games, which is, I'm really excited about. The State Games is a multi-sport event that added powerlifting in last year, and it was really because I was pushing for it. They were trying to go to USAPL, and USAPL dropped the ball, and that's right, I picked it up. I was like, you don't want them, you want us. And so it's our second year. Last year it was phenomenal. We had a great time. It was at Hoover's High School. This year it's going to be at the Gardendale Civic Center. And they have an opening ceremony the night before, like the Olympics. So they actually are at the BJCC. They have all the powerlifters. We're part of North Alabama because I put it on and I'm in North Alabama. Yeah. So we're all in the North Alabama flag. So we're all walking out like in a parade, like shit, It's really kind of cool. And I like that one because we don't ever get that as powerlifters. When are we ever fucking doing something like that?
Right.
Like, it's never... Who's going to celebrate our sport in a walking parade like that? That doesn't happen. So it's really kind of fun to be involved in that. The goal, at least for me, is the State Games is supposed to move on to the American Games, which is in San Diego. So you would compete against other people in San Diego if powerlifting was still around over there. So whoever was running it is not doing it anymore, so they don't have powerlifting at the American Games. My goal is to get somebody in PLU to run that. And of course, it's not in the Olympics, but technically it's like you have the Olympics, you have the American Games, and other games similar of that, and then it's below that. So like the Olympics many years ago asked Alabama to put on these games in several different states in order to kind of prepare people for the Olympics. So it was kind of like a stepping stone. And unfortunately, we don't have that in the Olympics, but it feels more legit. It feels really cool. And then after that, we should have Mavericks in October timeframe. We don't have a date set. Oh, no, I'm sorry. August 16th. We haven't posted it yet. It's going to be posted next week. August 16th is going to be at Club One. And Andrea told me she wants to compete at that. And she says she wants to pull an all-time world record. Ooh. So that's going to be really freaking cool. August 16th, and then Mavericks in October, and we're not doing Warrior or Golden Ape, formerly known Golden Ape. We'll do Arsenal. So Nightmare Before Liftmas is in Huntsville at Arsenal. They're going to be at their new gym, which is like twice as big and a ton of new equipment. And Arsenal and I, we've actually, Brandon and I were talking about doing an invitational next year. It's kind of cool. They have a really cool idea. Talking about doing something that's like gym based. So inviting gyms to have a certain amount of lifters come and doing a small invitational like that, which is a very cool idea. Cool. Yeah, it's kind of a cool idea. We were just speaking about it at regionals again. And I told him, I can't talk about this right now, but I really want to talk about this idea. I think it's great. And I Christy and I next year, depending on how it goes, we have too many meets sometimes. So I'd love to have just like a big total meet. Everybody, biggest total wins, like biggest total. That'd be really fun. Something on the smaller side. And it probably would be something she'd be able to do a little better because of her location. But yeah, that's kind of the schedule for the year. If you go to alabamapowerlifting.com, we'll have that schedule out there. As soon as it's registered and able to register for the events, it'll be there. And right now you can register for April's The Journey, the May one, and Alabama State Games. And I actually haven't announced the games really formally yet, but the registration is open, so people can register for that. But yeah, that's kind of... Yeah, you heard it here first. That's right. I haven't even announced it. Even the Club One is not. I mean, I think he just announced it like the other day, but we haven't.
Something I ask most of our guests is, what advice do you have to newcomers of the sport of powerlifting?
Yeah, it's always a good one. I think there's two things that I always see, and that is, what should I be lifting to be competitive? Like, what do I need to lift? What are the other people going to be lifting? Like what? And that is very short-lived. If you are always focusing on what the other person is going to lift or where you think you line up with the other person, that motivation And that sort of drive is going to be, it's going to drive yourself crazy, and you can never actually win. The drive should be to be the strongest you can be, and being consistent and being realistic with that. So I think one advice would just be go out there and do it, and don't worry about whatever everybody else thinks, or what you think everybody else thinks, or what you think people are going to think about your lifts, or how you look in a singlet. Like, really, it's really hard to do, but letting go of what the outcome might be, is really important. What was another important one that I'm always telling people? I guess don't overdo it in the beginning. Sometimes people think more is better, especially if they came from like a CrossFit background or something like that. Being smart with your training and knowing when your body is telling you to kind of back off, whether that's lack of sleep, lack of appetite, you're a dickhead. Those are all indicators that you're probably not doing that. And not to say that you shouldn't be pushing hard, because maybe sometimes people swing too much that way, where they're like, they do so much mobility or so much other shit. But I do have a lot of people who are like, I need to train 5 or 6 days a week. And yeah, I mean, you can. Sometimes that's not always good for everybody. So I think, being strategic and having a plan, and don't wing it when you come to the platform. If you and your homie are just like, I'm just going to do like 5 pounds more, I would say actually put some numbers down and think about why, the numbers that you're actually going to try on the platform. Don't wing it. I don't know how many times I see people that, like we ask them for their next attempt, and they're, scrolling down this huge list. Like, what do you think of this one? And I look, I'm like, you're fucking taking a 40-pound jump on your third attempt. That's like a 12% increase. But I can't say nothing, right? So there is a legitimate percentage you should use that almost everybody can do, relative. I think that people should prepare a little bit more for the platform in that way, and do your research. There's a lot of shit online you can read about what to pick for your meet attempts, and it shouldn't be just what you feel. Not if you want to know that you're being successful and not leaving anything on the platform or not bombing out. That's my 2 cents.
Good advice.
100%. Do you have any dad jokes for us?
Oh, I don't. You know what's so funny? My husband's a big dad joke guy. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I did not know that, but I could absolutely see it.
He just stopped last year, but every morning at 5:30 a.m. when he went to the gym, he'd do a dad joke. And it used to be he used to just send them to me. And then I started reposting them, and then everybody was like, oh, where's your husband's dad joke? And then he started doing them, and then he just ran out of jokes, he said. He just couldn't do any more jokes. I'm not a good joker. I don't have any dad jokes. My kid does. And they're like, Mom, you want to hear my Riz jokes? I'm like, ugh. Don't even use that word.
Nathan over here is chomping at the bit to tell you his dad jokes.
Oh, man.
Let me hear it.
I've
Let me
saved
hear
a few. So, all right. So, first one I got. I used to date a girl with a lazy eye, but I had to break up with her because she was always seeing someone on the side.
It's so good. Give me one more.
For Valentine's Day, I decided to get my wife some beads for an abacus. It's the little things that count.
Oh, that's so dumb.
The dumb ones are the best ones.
So dumb.
I'm out. I'm going to let you take this away. You got one more for us?
Yeah. I would love to get paid to sleep because it would be a dream job.
I hope you write these down.
So we have a source that we go to on Instagram called Dad Says Jokes, and we plug them most of the time. So if you need your fix on dad jokes, I think they post 1 or 2 every day. So I usually save the ones that I like, and then I tell them on here. So
it gets pretty heavy eye rolls for me sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
But I love them. I really do.
Oh, I love
Most
dad
time I
jokes.
get retold
They
to
are
my
a
wife, who just
pivotal-
like, you can see her patience wear thin. She laughs at the first one, and then after I've bombarded her with like 2 or 3 more, she's just like dead inside at that point. Doesn't want to hear anymore. So I'm like rapid fire. Like, one after another.
I usually only tell Desi one if I find it really funny, and I always either get a chuckle or a kind of like a look, like a it's funny, but I'm not gonna laugh at it look.
Right.
So
That's the kind of look I give.
yeah.
It may be
You don't give them
universal.
the satisfaction, is what it is. As a wife, you don't give them the satisfaction, or else they just keep coming, right? So it's like I gotta hold it in. Even if I think it's funny, I'm not giving you the satisfaction, because then tomorrow you're just gonna give me more.
Yeah. That is usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife definitely knows that. She's like, you could save these, not kill me at one time. That's very much the attitude. That
I say that's why I have children. I'm like, that's why you tell the kids these things, or that's why you bother them. I had children, so you don't bother me anymore. You just go bother them.
And the kids will find them hilarious if they
Hilarious.
understand them.
I can't wait till Sonny's
Yes.
old enough to tell her mother the jokes I've already told her
Oh
mother.
yeah.
Can't wait.
See, my thing is I can't wait for her to get old enough to tell the jokes to my parents. That's gonna be so funny. Oh man, I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, me too. It's the little things.
Yeah, my
you know?
kids
It's a
at that
little
age.
thing.
My kids
Your
at that
kids
age
are
right
that
now.
age?
Oh yeah, the little one, I have two 15-year-olds, and then I got a 9-year-old. But she's the one that's like, bro, why you risk? She'll be like, fucking hate this. She'll be, mom. Like she's mewing, that's mewing, right? Right? She does that to me. I'm like, fuck out of here! Like, she mew me. And then she like runs in her room, and I'm like, she's definitely my husband's child. Like she just,
Does that
I just was
mean
never like that as a
something?
kid.
Mewing.
It's to
a new
mew
one.
actually is like a aesthetic thing. So to mew, you pull your tongue into the top of your mouth. And it's supposed to give you a harder jawline, right? But it's like you do that as like a way of, it was like this for us as kids.
Yeah.
You
The
it's
circle,
almost
yeah.
right. It's almost like this "I caught you" kind of thing. So they do it to each other, and it's an expression almost. So she'll just come to me. She'll be like,
Is
and I'm
it
like, ugh.
is it like because you need to pull up your jawline? Are they saying you need to pull up your jawline?
No, they're almost like, but I'm looking good.
okay.
Like let's say you just rizzed on some girl or whatever, which is I'm like, does that mean like you got game? And she's like, what does that mean? I'm like, oh, man. Just generational
believe
differences.
so.
Yes, I go. I think it's the same. But I guess it's like if you're in a conversation and they're like, oh yeah, I came up with, hey girl. Like, and it's like, oh yeah, you looking good. Like it's a way of expressing that. And I'm
Okay.
sure some Gen Z or Alpha. She's a Gen Alpha, so she's like the next one. My older kids laugh at her because she's so like cliche with certain things, and she laughs at them like, "Oh, you're so old." It's funny because they're just, and they're really only 6 years apart. But I've learned so much that I wish I never knew. Like just never knew. Skibbity toilet, all this. Like
I hate that so much. That is like
Yeah.
the thing that makes me go insane.
Yeah.
And there's a movie coming out directed by Michael Bay.
Of course, it's directed by Bob.
Are you serious?
That's last I heard. That was the thing that was going on. And I was like, I don't understand how that's a thing, but you know what? It's probably going to make a ton of money from a bunch of kids. So whatever.
Yeah.
Michael Bay he ruins a lot of childhoods.
The first Transformers movie was good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Everything after that,
Trash.
I've heard Bumblebee
as
was
good.
good, but I haven't seen it.
I'm not
It was
going
good. I liked it. My husband's a huge Transformer fan, so
Okay.
he's very critical of a lot. I can't remember how he felt about it, but he loved the first one. I mean, when we
Yeah.
met, it was on MySpace, and he had a Transformer background on his MySpace. That's how much he loves. Yes.
Man,
I bet we all miss it
MySpace.
now.
Yeah,
Things were
that's
so
how
much
we
simpler.
met.
We were all halfway coders when my spaces.
We had our top friends,
Yeah.
all that shit.
music
The
playing on our
music.
page, custom themes. It
A whole
was-
nine, man. A whole nine.
Your top 10 or whatever, top 7. Was it top 10? It was top 10, right?
I don't
Top
remember.
eight.
Was it top 5?
Was it eight?
Top 8. There we go.
Top 8, yeah.
I don't remember.
So Damn, I don't know. I just drew a blank like out of nowhere. It's terrible. Oh, I remember. A rant me and Nathan go on all the time. I don't know how you feel about this as a personal trainer, but are superheroes not looking super in the movies?
Well, I guess it depends.
Less super than their portrayal in the comic books and whatnot. And I just saw like the new Captain America movie is about to come out with Anthony Mackie or whatever, and they have the grip tester, and they all tested like 120 or 130, and I'm like, lame. You're supposed to be superheroes.
That's what I do.
Just like, right? It was like grown men, like they're playing superheroes and like 120-pound grip strength. And I'm like,
well, I will argue this. If you look through time of what superheroes used to look like in the movies, right? We're talking about 50s. Like, look at the original Batman. He was soft as a jelly bean. Like,
he was, yep.
He did, you know what I mean? Like, even original Superman. I mean, so it's like when you talk about like what the ideal body was in superhero days, like, from the 50s, 60s, even 70s. I mean, look at Linda Carter. I mean, compare her. She was very skinny, but she was not Amazonian. You know what I mean? Like how they make Wonder Woman look like those bitches were doing CrossFit and they look like they did it. But yeah, I feel like now there's this definite enlargement of men in general, even toys, like boys' toys. You look at the old G.I. Joes compared to now, it's like they're fucking crazy now. It looks like they all look like Hulk in comparison.
Right, I don't know. I just want my superhero super. That's all.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's all I'm asking
It
for.
depends on the character, and I think some of them take the training more seriously, and some of them may be pushed to train more seriously. But I think the biggest one that me and you can both agree on, and I don't know if you've seen it, I don't know if you follow the comic book movies very closely or not, but Robert Pattinson's Batman is the most pathetic looking Batman I've ever seen in my life.
Well, they shouldn't have had him. I mean, I think acting wise, maybe he was, visually.
Acting wise, he was fine. He did an okay job, but it was a very different kind of portrayal of Batman. And it was very like he was a dirty rat type of person as opposed to a billionaire playboy, which was weird, but it fit with what they were going for, I guess.
Yes.
But it was
look at Bane. I mean, Hardy is a very small individual. They tried to make him look as big as possible, but he is not 6'6" or, he's like 5'8".
Yeah, 210 pounds playing somebody that was like 6'6".
Huge. Yeah,
400 pounds. Like, an absolute mutant. And he does look the part on screen, admittedly.
Yeah, they did a good job visually of, making him look imposing, but also how tall was Christian Bale? Like, because they were pretty, like, in a when you look at them like side by side, they were
actually. Yep.
So it was kind of like
I never thought about that.
Yeah, side by
camera
side
tricks, man.
But yeah,
I guess I watch.
Yeah, I like superhero movies. We're a bunch of nerds in our family. We got a lot of superhero, and like my kids just watched. My older one just watched Lord of the Rings for the first time with my husband.
Oh, okay.
He's like, we're going to do the whole extended version, 23 hours.
Oh, man.
It's right next to our Lego Lord of the Rings setup where my husband did, like, he's got, all the different, the elf, I forgot the elf land, what it's called in Lord of the Rings. There.
I don't remember either. I should.
Well, he's got the castle, Balrog. I can't even remember what the cast. He did all. Yeah, so we got a little nerdy family. So
Balrog.
We do have opinions on that stuff. What's that?
Balrog was the monster, the fire monster with the horns. I can't remember what the castle was.
It's the castle.
I can't remember what the castle is called though.
I feel like our nerddom is failing us right now, but
I also haven't watched Lord of the Rings since.
I used to exclusively only do the extended cut, and it was like a whole weekend to
it's
watch
just so much time to commit. It's so hard.
So much time to commit.
I mean, they've been watching since 11 o'clock. So.
Oh, they've been watching today?
Today, they've watched as much as they could since 11. I think they're still watching right now because I'm making dinner. So he's like, I'm just going to sit down. We're going to watch as much as we can.
That's funny. Chris Evans is my biggest. Is actually the Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth are like nothing Thor or Captain America about them. They're both weenies.
Chris Evans is similar. He's not huge, but he's actually got a reasonable size to him. Chris Hemsworth is as big as probably his frame could handle within the time span that he is allowed.
Every time I see it, I'm like, skinny bitch.
All right, Bumstead.
I feel like you're demanding too much of these guys.
I may be, but it is. Like I said, I probably grew up on too much Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
I guess the real question is, how
Totally.
much are you willing to sacrifice from an acting point of view for an aesthetic point of view, right? 'Cause
Man, you're talking to somebody
Yeah.
that likes the campiest, like, I love my Christopher Nolan Batmans, but I love the Tim Burton ones where it's just over the top and campy. Like, I'm okay with it being like, I'm partially okay with it being like a little cheesy. Because the comic books were, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is,
Yeah.
it's truer to it in a sense, but
I don't know if you've ever seen Absolute Batman before. I know you can't see this, but this is Absolute Batman.
yeah, he's jacked.
He is like 6'7" and 300 something pounds lean, and that is the new Batman that everyone's crazy about. So
Absolute
superheroes
Batman.
look
Where
super.
does he come from? Is he
It's
from
like-
the same?
it's an alternate timeline where he's an
Okay.
engineer instead of a billionaire or something.
Okay.
And like, my brother got me the first issue. I feel bad because I haven't read it, but I just haven't had time to sit down.
Oh,
and
that's
read it.
nice.
But the whole thing about it is he's like much more brutal than regular like normal Bruce Wayne is. But he's also just massive, and they said Bane is going to be bigger, and I was like, these are just going to have monsters. Like that's all it is. It's like monsters
Yeah.
versus monsters.
Well, maybe my expectations are too high, but
I think they might be a little
they
high.
might be a little high, but you know,
What about Jason Momoa? Even though Aquaman's a weird character to have in there.
he definitely, I feel like he looks the part better than most people do. He looks massive.
He does look big. I don't know how
He's a
much
big
he
dude.
weighs.
He's
I
6'6".
He's
He's
a fellow
6'6"?
By
I
the
didn't
way,
know
he's,
that.
I think
he's
he's
a fellow
6'5" or
bass player
6'6".
too. If you didn't know that,
I think I remember
also a
that.
musician. Yep.
Probably why his hands are big.
Do you want to hear a funny story
Yes.
about him before we go? Mm-hmm. So my mother, my parents are from Hawaii. They're in Hawaii. And my mom's like, oh, Heidi, one week she's like, oh, I messaged Bruno Mars to see if he would like to play Mark's song, which is my nephew. Like, Mom, what do you mean you messaged him? She's like, on Instagram. I was like, okay, Mom. Like, you think he's going to like answer back? Right. So I'm joking about this. So she's like, oh, I messaged Jason the other day. Jason who? Jason Momoa. And I was like, are we on a first name basis? Like, okay. We don't know him. I don't know him. She's like, yeah, uncle. So one of her friends was dying. And he discovered Jason Momoa. So he's a family friend of ours. I don't know him as well as my mother, right? So my mother's really good friends with him. And he was dying. And I guess at some point he told my mom that he wanted to see Jason before he passed. And so she took it upon herself to message him on Instagram. And of course, the guy's got like 2 million followers or whatever. They write back. Somebody writes back. And they were like, we're going to let him know. And he showed up to the funeral. And somehow he went to the hospital to see him, and then he went to the funeral, and my mom saw him, and she was like, oh, she's like, I was the one who messaged you. And it's kind of funny because she believes like when somebody writes her back on Instagram, I love my mother, but if somebody writes you back, she doesn't understand it's a bot like sending you a discount code. She's like, oh yeah, Sticker Junkie, they sent me we're on a first name, like, I'm like, Mom, that's like a bot. It's automated. Like it's telling you. But the one time I make fun of her, they answer back. And
Right.
so anyways, yeah, it was a weird story. She's like, holy smokes, Heidi, he is so tall. I go, yeah, I think he's like 6'5", 6'6". She's like, he is so tall in person. She's 4'11", so everybody's tall to her.
Right.
But very, very funny story. I think I would like him in real life. He seems like as a person.
Very
like,
chill, like just
Yeah.
kind of wants to hang out and have fun.
yeah, he seems like a real deal, like just a down to earth person, like personality wise. I was like, yeah, he seems like that kind of person that you just like, oh, I'd chill out with you.
That's really cool.
I have one random question just because you mentioned Jason Momoa. Have you ever been surfing?
Yeah. I used to bodyboard, which is it's I don't think I've ever surfed because where I lived when I moved back to Hawaii, in order to surf, you have to paddle out like very far out.
Right.
And I was never really confident with that, nor did I have people who surfed like that. But my ex-boyfriend, my college boyfriend, was a bodybuilder. So I mean, bodyboarding. So it's actually on your stomach, and so you can do shore breaks. So you don't have to go all the way out. When you're surfing, you have to take certain waves that are usually a little further out. When you're bodyboarding, you do a lot of shore breaks, so you're just like right close to the shore. It's a little more risky in the area that we live because there's, at least the nicer areas have a lot more rock. So you just get cut up by coral very easily. So I think I went once seriously, and then a couple like small things, and then that was it. Because I was dancing Tahitian a lot at the time, so I was dancing hula and Tahitian. So a lot of my free time was dancing actually. So I didn't really do a ton of that. Now I wish I did though. You know, I feel like it's like a rite of passage. Like
yeah, something that you can brag about because not a lot of people can surf. Like it's really something very interesting. I think I'd be terrible at it, but.
I don't think you would. I think of people who are somewhat athletic.
You don't know my
You can do
background. it. I was not an athletic
His
person.
athletic background is powerlifting.
I mean, I
all
did
the
a little bit
nerdum might say otherwise, right?
Yeah,
Might
a
give
little
me
bit
insight.
of skateboarding, dirt bike riding.
Then you could totally,
a little bit
if
of
you
stuff
even if you just skateboarded down the road and could do that decently, you could definitely surf.
Embarrassingly, I was a little bit good at ice skating. I don't know.
You should have just
why.
went with hockey. Yeah, I did a little hockey.
Yeah. But I never played hockey, so that would be a lie. I
Never had a
couldn't lie.
stick.
Yeah, I mean, I did street hockey.
Yeah.
Did street hockey.
There you go. That's
So you're athletic.
yeah.
I guess.
Screams athleticism. Like you could definitely. I definitely think it's something people should try. It's a whole world though, so you got to be careful when you go to Hawaii. It's not people who first time people should not go to certain places, and they do anyway because it's all in the TV shows, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to
Right.
North Shore. I'm like, for one, you probably can't surf at North Shore; it'll fucking eat you alive. And then two, all the other surfers there are not gonna like that you're there because
Right.
you don't know how to surf,
Yeah.
you know, and you
so
just
you're
fuck
kinda
everybody
like
else
in the
up.
way. Yeah.
Oh yeah, all the time. And if you do it, they're not friendly about it too because
Yeah.
it's kind of like you know what you should be doing when you're coming here, and if you don't, you're just being an asshole, and they'll beat you up. no joke. They'll throw hands. Like it's just how that's how
It's that
Hawaii people throw
serious.
hands. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they don't have to worry about me doing it.
Right. I'm just gonna chill on the beach and be like, dude, you rock. Like
You're doing good.
I just want to drink my cocktail and watch.
That's me
it.
now.
yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's always been me in a beach setting.
I love it.
Ready to wrap this up?
Pretty awesome episode. We appreciate you, Heidi, a whole bunch.
Oh, thanks.
We love what you do for the sport and specifically for Alabama. So
Yeah.
it's huge. Everything you do is great. We're certainly really, really proud of it. So
The reason why I've stuck with PLU, WRPF, like Charlie, like the whole group, like ever since we swapped to USPA in 2022 or 2021. 2020. It might have been 2021.
Might have
no,
been.
oh, it was
It was
2022
yeah.
because the National Bench Press Championship was 2021, and that was my last SPF meet. So when we swapped to 2022, I was like, this is where I'm staying. So
Yeah.
yep. Prior to that,
That's
it was
great.
all-
I appreciate you guys telling me that because there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and a lot of, at least for me, I really think, you know, Charlie too. He think a lot about the lifters. You know, like how can we make it better for them? And there's a lot of hard sweat that goes into it, and sometimes we get yelled at, and you know, so in the end, it's all worth it for me at least. So I appreciate that.
As a coach that's done it all over the United States now, I would just about rather do it here than almost anywhere else. So it's a big deal. You know, save some national meets, but that has nothing to do with you guys or the production of it or how it's ran.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with my lifters at that point.
Yeah.
But in terms of, you know, a regular day in powerlifting, it doesn't get better than the state of Alabama, and that's because of you guys. So for sure.
I appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely. We did forget to mention our sponsors at the beginning of the show, Jam Logistics and The Butcher. We buy our meat there. It's awesome.
very cool thing about it. I've been there the past couple weeks. Desi's one in 93.7. They never have it out like on the racks, but I just went up there and I was like, hey, can I get some 93.7? He's like, how much you need? Exactly what I asked for. So very, very cool. And it's cheap. They're
Is that where
93
you guys live?
Yes, in Vinemont. 93.7 for them. I think it's $5.99 a pound.
Oh God,
It's incredibly cheap for 93.7.
yeah,
That's really
very,
cheap.
very good. Yep, they treat us pretty well. Definitely have to shout out to Justin and Chad, the owners of those two companies. Treat us pretty well. So that's pretty much it to wrap it up. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts.
I told you.
You can listen to us on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, send us comments, DMs, rate us 5 stars on Spotify.
4 stars.
You know,
Or 4 stars.
4, or 3, or 2, or 1, whatever you.
Whatever you feel
We would
comfortable
like it to
with.
be 5. If you do 2 to 4, I would like an explanation, so I don't have to stay awake at night wondering what we did wrong. But you can follow us at Future is Female Powerlifting, at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, or at Sip It and Rip It. And that's the show. Bye, y'all.